might be an interesting experiment to let my Twitch chat decide what I build in The Sims. So I used a series of polls ranging from things like where should we build it, how much should it cost, different things about how it should look. And we had about 4,000 people answering each poll, so we had a pretty good sample size. This was part of my big annual charity fundraiser for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. We're in the final stretch now. I do the fundraiser for the entire month of May, and we have just about a week left. I'm actually going to be live on Twitch all day today and every day for the next week, so if you want to come by, I'll link that down below. My name's just lilsimsie on Twitch, and I will also link our fundraiser in case you want to support it. And interestingly, I did this same challenge last year, and chat wanted me to build an alien space lab, which could not be more different from what we ended up with today. So let me walk you through the requirements, and then I will show you what I built. First, I asked chat about packs. Should it be base game? Should it be limited packs? Should we just use any packs? And there was a pretty resounding yes to any packs. It was like 80% of the vote. And then I asked if it should be a community lot or a house, and same thing, it was a pretty solid group leaning towards house. And then we voted on the world, and the top two were Strangerville and Chestnut Ridge. And the winner ended up being Chestnut Ridge, so we're gonna build this in the horse ranch world. Then we voted on lot size, and the people wanted to see a 40 by 30 lot, so I picked this Biscuits Bastion one. And then we voted on budget, and they wanted the house to cost less than 100,000 simoleons. And lastly, for the setup, we voted on a color scheme, and they picked dark and moody. They kept calling it Y'alternative or Shrek Academia. I don't even really know how to describe this, but the general consensus was that we were going for a dark academia swamp horse ranch. So with that plan in mind, I started trying to build something. I was kind of going for like a Shrek swampy cottage vibe at first. And as we were doing this, my chat unsurprisingly also voted that we had to add in a moat. When they say moat, they mean like a river around the build, like a circle of water surrounding the build. Think like old-timey castle, moat and drawbridge, like that sort of energy. That's what the chat wanted. This moat thing actually originated from a chat decides my build thing from like 2 years ago, and I don't even know how this started. I bet one person was like, you should add a moat, and then suddenly everybody was like, oh my god, you should add a moat. And now it's become a meme to request a moat in like every single build that I do. So when you give chat the power, of course they're gonna demand a moat in this build. So I had to figure out a way to have a river of water surrounding this one. The lot's not very big, so it was kind of hard to do. We actually have what sort of ends up being more of a half moat. We voted again, and they decided that it was okay to have like a half moon shape instead. So it's almost like a semicircle, the moat. And the other problem is that chat wanted to have diagonal walls. So we have this like diagonal segment on the left side of the house. They also wanted to have rounded roofs, which isn't that bad. I think it kind of looks cool with the house. I just don't really use these rounded roof shapes very often, so it was kind of an interesting challenge to fit them in. We were going for that dark and moody vibe, so the whole house is pretty much black everywhere on the outside. I ended up kind of going for like a black and jewel toned color scheme. We have a lot of black outside, a lot of purple. There's a lot of like deep emerald shades happening as well. The inside was definitely a challenge, but the outside I really, really loved. It's rare that I try and do houses like this that have lots of water on the lot, and it's rare that I try and fit in so much water on such a small lot, so I actually really liked doing it. You can see on the one side we have kind of like a deck over there, and I really liked that part because it's gonna be on top of the moat. So we have this like floating section of outside space that goes above the water. I needed to leave the backyard kind of open. The reason that we voted to have a half moat is because they wanted to have horses. So we were like, okay, you can't have a full moat and horses. Like, it's not gonna fit, so what do you want? You tell me you want a 40 by 30 lot, but then you also want a giant house, you also want a moat, you also want horses, so we had to compromise with the half moat so we could fit a barn in the back. Saying all this out loud now feels so ridiculous, but again, this is what happens when you let the internet tell you what to do. You've got a million different voices chiming in, and it ends in chaos. I feel like it sounds like I'm not speaking very highly of the Twitch chat right now. That's not my intention. I'm like joking. It's funny how this ended up being so chaotic. And this is probably a good time to plug my Twitch stream. Just one more time, I'm sorry. One last time. because for the whole month of May, we do this massive fundraiser for St. Jude. It's been really fun. We have a lot of really, really fun streams planned for the last week. I think you'll genuinely really enjoy popping by. So again, I'm gonna link that down below. It's also really starting to seem like there's gonna be another Sims pack coming out this week, or probably 2 Sims packs, because it looks like the kits are gonna come out next week. That's not like fully confirmed, but it did leak. So I'll make videos about them obviously, but if you wanna watch like some more in-depth building with the new packs and like really test them out, I'll be live for hours messing with the packs later this week. I also have a lot of Sims packs to give away. I bought a whole bunch of codes to give away. So if that entices you, you gotta come to my Twitch streams and maybe you could win one of the codes. Granted, there are thousands of people there and I don't have thousands of codes. So bear with me, okay? I'm just one person, but I did buy some giveaway codes. So as you can see, we're working on trying to figure out the moat situation right now. I really struggled with how to make the water. I think this happens to me every time I try to use the terrain tools in this game. I struggle to make it smooth looking, I struggle to make it cool looking, but I finally managed to make it work. We've got this really interesting bridge over the water up to the front door, and then of course we have that deck over the other side. I kind of made it look like there's a pond in both the front and the back of the lot, kind of like to cap off the ends of the river. And then we had the community vote on what water style to use, which is why you can see me kind of testing out a few different variants. We ended up picking the one that they described as slightly dirty. We were like, should it be the mossy one? Should it be the blue one? They wanted the slightly dirty one. So that's what we have. I think it fits the swamp energy, so I get it. It makes sense. And then I went through and added in a ton of plants. They wanted to have a really overgrown sort of lot style, which makes sense, I think, for the swamp vibes anyway. First, I went in and layered a ton of the horse ranch, like low-lying plants. Then I got in some bigger bushes. And then for flowers, we picked to have a bunch of purple flowers. We felt like the purple kind of fit the dark and moody energy. So we used a lot of different purple variants. A couple of things from like cottage living got added in. I feel like doing the landscaping of lots like this is almost always my favorite part. I just have so much fun doing this sort of overgrown landscaping and like going through and layering all of the plants. I know that's silly to like landscaping the best in a Sims build, but honestly, I really, really enjoyed doing all the landscaping on this one. I spent an exceptionally long time doing it as well, to the point where I had to cut out a lot of it from this speed build, otherwise it would have been way too long. I think you can see why it took me a long time, just because of how much of it there is. And I was being picky too. I couldn't decide what color flowers I wanted to have. I found these like base game purple wildflower looking things. I forgot that it had this darker swatch color and I felt like that was perfect. Once I saw that flower, the vibe was set. It kind of figured everything out. It's funny how that happens, where you find like one item and you're like, oh my god, this is the one. This just figured out everything for the whole rest of the build. It all makes sense now. It's all coming together all of a sudden. And those purple flowers were it for me. Just those tiny little purple wildflowers. Now is probably a good time to explain to you some of the differences from last year's attempt at this challenge. So this time they wanted the alternative swamp horse build, right? Last year they voted to build in Sixum, the alien world, and they wanted to build like an alien lab on that Sixum lot. Of course, they also wanted a moat in that house. So it had like a red moat around this tiny 20 by 20 lot, and it was like 4 stories tall. It was floating in the sky. Like, it really could not be more different from what this house ended up being like. And I just think that's so funny because for the most part, it's a lot of the same people that are voting, but they just went a completely different direction this time around. And I feel like now we're set in this. Like, we have to keep doing this every year to see how it changes, right? Because it's so interesting to see what people want every time. One final plug. Maybe if you want to be involved next year live, you could follow my Twitch channel. I'll link it down below. I have actually multi-streamed a couple of times this month as an experiment. Obviously, I stream on Twitch and I post videos on YouTube is kind of my thing, like live on Twitch, pre-recorded videos on YouTube. I've only streamed on YouTube once before this, but now I've streamed 3 times on YouTube. It's because they changed the requirements. Before, if you were a Twitch partner, you were not allowed to stream on any other platform. And then they lightened that where you could, but you couldn't multi-stream. So I could stream on Twitch or YouTube. And then they changed the rules again. So now you're allowed to stream on both simultaneously. So that's what I was testing for the first time. I thought it was interesting for like the charity fundraiser. I felt like for a special occasion, it was kind of nice to just be live on both and see. But I found it kind of difficult to manage having 2 chats at once. It was definitely fun, I think, for special occasions, but I'm not trying to stream on YouTube every day. I think it's nice to have some separation too. As a person who makes her money on the internet, it's kind of scary having all your eggs in one basket. So it's kind of nice to be like a Twitch streamer and a YouTuber, because who knows what could happen to Twitch or YouTube in the future. So it's nice to have a backup plan, right? It's nice to have like a community on both, just in case. I know that's hard because a lot of you maybe don't have a Twitch account and stuff, but honestly, Twitch streams are really fun. The Twitch community and like the tools for streaming on Twitch are so much better than what YouTube has. There's like nothing to moderate YouTube chats. It's very, very, very difficult to moderate YouTube chats because the mods have like half as many tools. Granted, I'm also just not as used to it, but like I find Twitch to be a far superior streaming platform as a streamer. They just have better stuff for it, which is weird because you'd think that YouTube, being YouTube, would have more, but they don't. Anyway, we're getting closer to finishing the exterior of the build now. You might have just seen that I went through and added a ton of ivy and wisteria and different vines around the outside of the house. I felt like that was a really nice touch. I've never used wisteria, like ever. I always find it kind of hard to fit in. I feel like I'm not very good at placing the wisteria, but the chat voted for me to add it. So I was like, you know what? If that's what you want, we can try it. So I gave the wisteria a try, and then you can see me trying to put in the horse space in the backyard. There's not really a lot of spaces for the horses to run around. So it's lucky that this lot has like a big pasture behind it, like off the lot, there's that big area. That's one of the nicest parts of Horse Ranch. I think this is kind of controversial of me to say, but I actually don't love giant lots in The Sims 4. I think it's nice to have 1 or 2 giant lots, but I think it's more practical to have mostly smaller lots, just as a person who likes to live and build on smaller lots. I also think they run a little bit better in the game, but I kind of like how the lots in Horse Ranch are mostly around this size, like 30 by 20 to 40 by 30. There is a 64 by 64, but most of them are around this big. And then they also have some stuff outside of the lot. So it kind of looks like your sim owns more land sort of surrounding the area, but their physical lot is a little bit smaller. I feel like it's really cool to try and incorporate the environment that way. And it's nice how there's so many horse things just out and about in the world. There's like different horse jumps and different barrels just kind of placed around. So there's a lot of things for you to do. I really like Chestnut Ridge. It's one of my favorite worlds, I think, just because I think it's really well done. We're working on the floor plan now, and the floor plan was really difficult for me on this house. I struggled so much with how to space it out. We're working on the floor plan now, and you can probably tell that the floor plan was actually really difficult for me. The diagonal wall really threw me when I was trying to figure this out. And with this, we also voted for how many Sims the house was supposed to include. So chat wanted to have 5 Sims total. They voted for 2 adults and 3 children, and that's not counting the horses. So we've got space for 5 Sims in this one. You'll see that downstairs we have a big primary bedroom, and then we also have 2 bathrooms down here. One's an ensuite, and there's a library downstairs. And then upstairs we have 3 more bedrooms for the kids, and we also have an extra bathroom. I went back and forth a lot on this downstairs layout. At first I was gonna have the diagonal part be a library, and then I was like, no, the bookshelves look terrible on diagonal walls, so we cannot do that. So I swapped it around and put the library in the back right corner and the primary bedrooms in the diagonal section. If I could offer one piece of advice for building with diagonals, honestly, use them for living rooms or for bedrooms when possible, because when you try and put in big things like bookshelves, especially things like kitchen cabinets, there's often a lot of lighting glitches on diagonal walls, which is why I try really hard to avoid adding the cabinets on those walls. So I tried to like flip it around and not have anything that was gonna glitch, and that's why the bedroom is there. So you'll see in a lot of my builds that have diagonals, I put the bedroom in that diagonal segment, and that's the reason. It's just less buggy. And then the first room that I actually furnished was the library, and this was one of those rooms that I felt like set the tone for the entire house. Once I did this, I was like, okay, this is the vibe. Like, this totally makes sense. I used the Paranormal Stuff Pretty Floral wallpaper, which is one of my favorite wallpapers in the entire game. And then from the new crystal pack, we have these amazing bookshelves that have a ladder, and they kind of come in the perfect color to match the wallpaper. And I love the back wall, like corner bookshelf. I just thought that was so cool. To me, this is my dream. I would kill to have like a dedicated library room with like full walls of bookshelves, the big comfy couch. I just would love to have that. Even like these darker colors in it, oh my gosh, I think this is so beautiful. So once I had this, I was like, okay, now the house is starting to come together. I put a lot of book clutter in there. I've got some fancy mirrors and other decor. I wish I could have had even more bookshelves, but it just didn't really end up working out that way based on how the floor plan was. I did put a fireplace. This one was kind of controversial, but I felt like the fireplace was necessary for the coziness. I think it made sense in there. I really liked it. And of course, it's the horse ranch fireplace because, again, the build is y'all alternative, if you will. It's Shrek Academia, if you will. This room's not very swampy though. The outside's more swampy than the inside, okay? I'll give you that. And this room was probably the easiest of the whole house. Once I started moving out to the rest of the house spaces, I had a lot more of a difficult time with the color scheme. I think the rugs were kind of the main issue for me. I didn't know what rug to use. I also had no idea what kitchen cabinet to use. So we did a poll for the kitchen cabinets as well. I was like, listen, chat, I don't know what to pick for this. I'm gonna need some help. So I put it up to them and they picked the ones from the rent pack, which I had not really considered using myself, but I felt like that was a really smart choice because I was more so imagining the horse ranch ones. The rent ones I think look better because the cabinet's a better color. They've got a lovely dark countertop. And then we used the new tile wallpaper from the Home Chef Hustle pack because it kind of has that dark color scheme. It's very what I would describe as dark and moody. So we put that in here. And this kitchen is huge. I feel like the house is kind of old looking on the outside, but the inside is certainly not rustic. I feel like it's an old house that's been renovated, you know? So they've got a slightly more updated kitchen, still some older floors and like some older, more traditional styles, but in a way that's been updated. A lot of people wanted me to use like the cottage living stove and fridge, but we decided to use the Home Chef Hustle ones because we were going for that slightly more updated vibe. Just because it's in a swamp doesn't mean that it has to be a swamp. Right? I think that was the idea that we were going for with the style. The living room is where the real problem started to arise because at first I wanted to use that sort of purpley toned couch, which I can acknowledge is a little bit bright, okay? But I felt like it matched the kitchen tile really well. So I was trying to see if I could fit that in somehow. And then I was looking at rugs and all these rugs that I liked were either too small or way too big when sized up. So I was struggling a lot with what rug to choose. We went back and forth for so long. We had multiple polls for this. Like, this was a process trying to pick the rug. This is one of those times where a thing like the tool mod, for example, would have been really useful because then you can kind of slightly more customize size things up. I wish that in-game there were more increments in sizing things up. I wish there was an in-between with like one smaller sized up version. And again, I'm aware you can do that with mods, but you all know I don't really use that many mods in my videos, especially with my build videos. I really try to do things that are slightly more easily replicated by viewers. I know saying that, I use like a million packs in these builds a lot of the time, but I try to do stuff that's like easy for you to follow without having to download all these complicated mods, which is why I don't use the tool mod really in my builds. I don't really even use any custom content. I don't use any custom content in my builds, and I use like a couple things. I have some kind of chaotic costumes and stuff for challenges, but that's pretty much it. But anyway, with the build, you can see again, the rug struggle continues because I still have not picked one for either the dining room or the living room. And I kept going back and forth so much, especially with them being right next to each other. I really did not know what to use and what would match. I have some advice for you if you're struggling with color schemes like I was in this case. And oftentimes that advice just boils down to like letting it sit there for a second. Because with these rugs, I really did not know what to pick and I felt like it was kind of ruining the room. So I ended up settling on a couple and just letting them sit there so I could look at it longer. And I feel like once you put your mind away from it and start working on something else and then come back to it, it starts to make a little bit more sense. So that's what I was trying to do. I was like, okay, just give up on the attempts for a second, put everything else together, and then we can come back and figure it out. I think in this case, it kind of started to work. You can see I've got the same fireplace out here. I put a built-in bookshelf next to it. I've got some nice leather furniture kind of going around with it. And that I felt like really made it start to come together and I liked the look of it a lot more. I struggled a lot with wallpaper too, because I wanted to have all this black, but then I had these brown couches. So then I was like, oh no, I've ruined it. I ended up settling on a more simple wallpaper, less patterned, and I used the vampires wallpaper out here, which I kind of forget about, but I feel like it ties in the brown and the black quite nicely, and the pattern's a little bit more subtle. I even used a more heavily patterned version at first and then went to a slightly more subtle version. With that wallpaper, it's almost kind of shiny. So one of the swatches is the same color, but less patterned, and you have to like look at it in the right light for you to see the color, which is so weird, but it makes sense, I swear. I'll show you in in-game when we do the tour at the end. And then I went back and I believe this is a werewolves rug, just sized up. It has all the dark colors that I wanted, especially that like deep purple color. And so I tried to use that. And that was the final decision, was that deep colored rug. I'm still unsure about this. I know I've been going on and on about it for so long, but this was like serious heartache for me, okay? I really did not know what to use. And this was the best that I could do. I also ended up building a wall to kind of separate these two rooms. And I did think that helped to have that division between dining and living room, but you'll see me get to that. I'll stop rambling about rugs now, I promise. We're kind of starting to do some clutter now and finally add decor to the kitchen. And while I do this, I have a couple of big life updates for you. One good, one not so good. We recently hit 2 million subscribers, which is so cool. I really cannot wrap my head around that. When I see the number, it's like mind-boggling to me. And I am still working on a couple of different 2 million subscriber celebration videos. I've just been doing my fundraiser, so I've been streaming a lot. I've really been working like nonstop every day. So it's a slow process, but I'm getting there. So we'll have those videos up in the next couple of weeks probably. Just bear with me. I've got a lot going on. And in slightly more unfortunate news, kind of related to a lot going on, I've had a lot happening in my family and my like personal life recently. My grandpa's in the hospital right now. It's been rough. It's one of those things where like everything always happens all at once, you know? There's just a lot going on with my family right now, so bear with me is why I'm bringing that up. I'm trying really hard to like not miss uploads and still stream every day and like do all these things, but it's sometimes kind of hard to be on camera with all that's going on. So if I like don't post one day, I'll be okay, but just again, bear with me. I'm really trying. This year has been such a nightmare between my cat getting cancer, now like this is going on. It's just like there's so much. It's just been so much. So I'm really sorry if I seem off or if like anything is weird about my videos. I'm trying my best. I'm really trying my best. I'm sorry. I don't mean to like bring down the vibes. I just sort of use these speed builds as like a podcast almost. It's a good time for some life updates. And I think it's important to mention when you're like sharing your whole life with the internet, I think it's important to mention when there's, you know, maybe not so good things happening. So that's what I've been dealing with. And on the cat cancer front, oh, sorry, I know that's bad vibes too. A lot of you probably know that Snap had surgery a couple months ago to remove a tumor from her hip. She's doing a lot better. Things have been healing really well. You can barely even see her scar. Her fur's starting to grow back. She's getting around a lot better again. For a while there, she was struggling to like jump up and climb and stuff, which makes sense. She had major surgery and a scar about this big on her leg. And when you are a cat who's about this big, that's a big scar. But it's healed really well. I honestly feel like she's back to normal. I think Snap is like totally fine again, which is huge. Obviously, she is still old. She still has diseased kidneys. But as far as like the surgery and that part, she's recovered really well. So if you've been worried, I'm very pleased to tell you that she's been doing a lot better. So that's good. That is one really positive thing that's been going on. She's definitely improved a lot. But back to the build for a second. You can see at this point that like 90% of the build was trying to figure out the color scheme. Because we voted dark and moody, but then like actually trying to implement that was really hard for me. I wouldn't even describe this as like a dark academia build at all. We definitely have some elements of it, but the chat wanted so many different things. So many different things all at once. So I tried my best to include all of them. The last room downstairs becomes that primary bedroom, and I used a really nice wallpaper from Realm of Magic. It has these beautiful floral parts to it, and I put all of that together. This room was really hard for me as well. I really didn't know how to mix and match the colors. I tried to have that like deep purple. I started with the bed that comes from Seasons, and then I tried to mix and match a lot of purple accents in here, but I think I was struggling with the pattern on the wallpaper because I didn't really know how many other pattern things were safe to include. I'm definitely not really very good at mixing patterns, I don't think. I like to think that I'm decently good at building, and I like to think that I'm decently good at putting together some different furnishings, but I really feel like the patterns are not my strong suit. That sort of like eclectic, almost like decor to the max kit, maximalist style is just not my vibe. And because I don't love that kind of stuff in real life, I don't think that it's my area of expertise in The Sims, and that's why I kind of have a hard time putting it together. It was also at this point that I started to realize, oh no, we actually have a budget for this build. I put this really expensive bookshelf in there. I'm pretty sure that the Crystal Creations bookshelves are like almost 2,000 simoleons. And here I was just putting them all over the place. We got like 4 of them downstairs. And then at this point I was like, oh, I only have 20K left and I still have 3 bedrooms and an extra bathroom upstairs to finish. So I I was like, okay, now we have to start being a little bit more careful with our pricing. It didn't end up being that bad. I let the chat vote for what types of bedrooms we should have upstairs. They wanted to have a nursery, which was a huge help because obviously furniture for infants is really cheap. We got adult beds for 1,000 simoleons. We got cribs for like 200. So I will gladly accept the 200 simoleon crib at this point of our budget. I don't think that the house seems like a budget build though. Obviously it ends up having a budget, but I don't feel like it looks like I was running out of money towards the end. So while I was kind of worried, I don't think I had a reason to be. We did also use some really fun and kind of chaotic wallpapers upstairs, which I very much enjoyed. I feel like I don't get much of an excuse to use a lot of these things, so I had a lot of fun going through and picking some funky patterns and all these different colors. A lot of the decor to the max kit going on up here. That's what this blue wallpaper is in this first bedroom. And you can see in that purple room with the black rug and the florals, that rug is from high school years. I got a lot of questions about where it's from. The high school years rug has some pretty random swatches. There's like a sports themed one, there's a bunch of stripy ones, and then there's also that really pretty flower one. And that's one of my favorite rugs in the whole game. So I used that and kind of based an entire room around it, of course, in this space. I pictured this first floral room to maybe belong to a teenager. I gave them a lot of music stuff, so they have a piano and a little shelf with some clutter on top. I love the flowers and the birds on this wallpaper. I really had fun doing this room. I need to use this wallpaper more often because it's so beautiful. I wasn't as convinced by the floral rug in the other purple room. I didn't really know what to use. I ended up swapping it to be like kind of a deep swampy green instead of the purple, and I think that looks a lot better. And I thought this room would belong to a child, but maybe like an older child. Does that make sense? So I gave them a desk and a computer. They've got a single bed and like some cute clutter in here. I also used the vampire's toy. There's like a bat plushie, so I put that in there. That was kind of an inspiration to me with the style of the build. I kind of loved it. And you know what? Now that I'm looking at it, my shirt's kind of like the exact same color as this wallpaper. I didn't really notice that until just now. That's cute. I like it. See, I dressed up for the video. I was prepared for this. And now we're working on the last room of the house. This room is that nursery that I was talking about. I used my favorite wallpaper again. There's definitely a lot more colors upstairs, but I think they're still dark colors, or at least like deep colors with that jewel tone vibe. And this one, of course, has a bunch of cribs in it. In this room, I noticed a couple of things that really upset me. First of all, you would think that the matching set of crib and changing table would match each other. It's kind of based around that style base game set that we have. So we have a crib that matches the toddler bed and everything, except the changing table comes in different colors. It's supposed to match the same dresser that matches all of this stuff, and yet the cloth on the changing table in that swatch is yellow and the cloth on the crib is white. So I couldn't use them together because it looked ridiculous. So I ended up settling instead to use a bassinet, and I know that kind of sucks because you're gonna be in a bassinet for like one day. It's not really as necessary, but the bassinet looked better, okay? I used the Realm of Magic bassinet. It's this beautiful like canopy bed for the baby. It's smaller, so it fits better in the small room. The colors match, which is even better. And I'm sorry about lying about the infant room. And with that, we have officially finished the entire Chat Decides My build. So what I want to do now is pop back into the game and give you a tour of the fully finished product. We started on this big empty 40 by 30 lot in Chestnut Ridge. If you're looking for it on the gallery, it's called the Y'alternative Ranch. It does cost 101,585 simoleons, but the chat said that I was allowed to have extra money, and they're the ones who decided the build. Okay, not me. They decided, so therefore it's fine. And this is what it looks like from the exterior. You can see I went in and added a few extra little details, things like ducks and fish in the water. So these are VFX. When you're in live mode, there'll be like floating little fishies in there. I am obsessed with the exterior of this house. I think the flowers and all of the like little wisteria bits look so cool. Around the side, you can see that deck that I was telling you about. This is kind of floating above part of the river. They've got a telescope and some planter boxes. We have a grill and a big table. In the way back, this part is like another big section of the pond, and then we have the horses. So they can easily get out here, and you'll just walk them out this way, and then you have to kind of skill build out here instead of on your own lot. We've got a small little back porch. There is a trash can, don't worry, I did not forget. And then when you walk inside the house, you have to walk over this bridge to get into the front yard. I think this bridge looks so cool. I haven't done this in a long time. I really enjoyed trying it. And when you first come in, we've got this small little entryway right here by the front front door. We've got some artwork and like a little table. We have a huge living room around this TV. I think that this angle with the built-in bookshelf and like the double coffee table, I really like this. I had a lot of fun using all these pieces. We have a really enormous kitchen as well back here in the front. And then you can go through this archway to access the small dining room. We have another archway to get into the library over here, which is also stunning. And then down this way, we have one small half bathroom for everybody to access, and also that primary bedroom. Again, it has that sort of deep purple color. I don't know if it's good. I think it looks interesting. And they have an ensuite bathroom right here. I think that's a good use of the space. I think that considering how weirdly shaped this house is, the floor plan actually worked out pretty well. And then when you go up the staircase, we've got a really tiny hallway. There's a huge bathroom up here. I couldn't really make this into a bedroom because there's no windows, as you can see. So it became a huge bathroom. Annoyingly, the roof is kind of clipping and I couldn't really change that either. I tried moving it and you can see I even did this to make it clip a little bit less, but it still is bad. So I'm really sorry about that. This part right here is because it was clipping inside of the staircase. Do you see that? So we had to do something about it. So just ignore this, okay? The chat said it was fine and it's their build. First, we have this really cute blue teenager's bedroom, which I am obsessed with. It kind of has this like blue and gold vibe going on. Then we've got this really adorable little kids room. And last, we have the tiny little nursery, and that is the fully finished house. So in total, it's 4 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms, plus it's got 2 horses in the back and a giant pond. So it's a really enormous build, but I hope that you liked it. It's definitely different from what I normally do, the color scheme, the style, the pond, and I think it made for a really interesting experiment. If you liked the concept of this, there's something kind of special about being there for it live and like helping to contribute. So I will link my Twitch channel down below. I think you'll like my Twitch streams. I will also link our charity fundraiser down below. Like I said, we're getting like this close to $400,000 raised. That is our ultimate goal for the month, and I think it would be really cool if we could beat it. And we have some pretty fun stuff planned for the rest of the week. So I will stop plugging it and I will end this video right here. Thank you for watching. Have the best rest of your day, and I will catch you all tomorrow. Okay? Bye, everybody. I am obsessed with Horse Ranch. Honestly, it is such a fun pack. It's one of my favorite packs, and I didn't really think it was gonna be, but I really enjoy it.